The night was colder than ice, and the wind carried dust and ashes across the broken land. A woman walked slowly through the empty streets of a ruined colony town, holding the hand of her little daughter. The girl's clothes were torn, her cheeks pale, her lips trembling from hunger. She was too tired to speak, but her eyes looked up at her mother with silent hope. The mother had nothing left to give, no food, no money, no friends. The world they lived in had been destroyed by war. Machines rusted in the streets, houses stood empty, and people had long stopped helping each other. Everyone survived alone, everyone trusted no one. But tonight, the woman could not walk anymore. Her daughter's steps grew weak, and she feared the child would fall and never rise again. She needed shelter, she needed food, even if it cost her pride, even if it cost her everything. At the edge of the settlement stood a small house. Unlike the others, it had light shining faintly through the cracks of the window shutters. Smoke rose from a chimney. That meant warmth. That meant someone lived inside. The woman held her daughter close. She whispered, "Stay quiet, little one. Mama will take care of you." Her heart pounded as she walked to the door. She raised her hand and knocked. At first, there was no sound, only the whistling of the wind. Then heavy footsteps moved inside. The door creaked open, and a tall figure appeared in the doorway. A man stood there, broad-shouldered, his face half in shadow. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. He looked at the woman, then at the girl. His voice was low and steady. "What do you want?" The mother's lips shook. She swallowed her fear and spoke. "Please, just one night under your roof. Feed my daughter. She has not eaten in days. I will give you anything you ask, only do not turn us away." Her words trembled. She lowed. The fire crackled. The child ate happily, but the mother's mind was filled with questions. She had come to beg for one night, one meal, and instead she had walked into the home of a man who was not ordinary. She did not know if she had found safety or walked into danger. The man finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "Stay the night, rest. Your child will be safe here." The woman nodded slowly. Her body was weak, but her heart was alert. She would protect her daughter no matter what, but deep inside, she felt the weight of a truth she could not yet speak. This was no normal man, and this night would change everything. The fire burned low inside the small house, casting long shadows on the walls. The woman sat close to her daughter, watching her sleep peacefully for the first time in days. The warmth of the room wrapped around them, yet her mind stayed cold with worry. She had begged for shelter. She had found it, but she had also stepped into a place filled with secrets. The man moved silently, as if he was used to being alone. He cleaned the bowls, fixed the fire, and then sat in the corner of the room. His glowing eyes reflected the flames. His face was strong and calm, but there was something hidden beneath, something heavy. The mother kept her voice low. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. Her words were soft, almost broken, because in this world, kindness was rare. The man looked at her for a long time before answering, "Because no one helped me, once." His voice carried both sadness and strength, as if he remembered a pain too deep to forget. The woman wanted to ask more, but something in his tone told her to stop. So she stayed quiet, listening instead to the sound of the wind outside. Her daughter stirred in her sleep, mumbling softly. The man's eyes softened as he looked at the girl. There was no hunger or cruelty in his gaze, only a strange, warm, It confused the woman. It frightened her too. Hours passed. The mother tried to rest, but her thoughts kept circling back to the glowing object the child had seen. That strange light had not been normal. It had not been human. In the silence of the night, she whispered again, "What was that? The thing glowing in the corner?" The man's shoulders stiffened. He did not answer at first. His hands tightened around the metal cup he held. Finally, he said, "It is better you do not know." But the woman pressed, her fear turning into courage. "If you are hiding something dangerous, my child is at risk. I have the right to know." The man's eyes glowed brighter. His voice dropped lower. "It is not a danger to her. It is a danger to others." His words sent a shiver through her spine. She wondered what kind of man speaks like that. A man with a weapon, or a man with a past. The fire cracked, and for a moment silence returned. Then, far away in the settlement, a sound cut through the night. Loud voices, angry laughter, footsteps of men moving in groups. Raiders. The woman's eyes widened in fear. She rushed to her daughter, holding her close. She had seen raiders before, cruel men who stole, killed, and burned everything they touched. No one in the settlement was safe when they came. The man stood slowly, his tall figure blocking the light of the fire. He reached for something behind the door, a long weapon wrapped in cloth. His movements were steady, as if he had prepared for this moment many times before. He turned to the woman. "Stay inside. Lock the door. Do not come out." She shook her head, whispering, You cannot face them alone. They are too many. But his glowing eyes met hers, calm and firm. I am not like other men. Without waiting for her answer, he stepped outside. The door closed behind him. The mother's heart pounded like thunder. She pressed her Dao. Get her close, whispering prayers. She wanted to believe, but fear told her no one could fight raiders alone. From the cracks in the wooden wall, she looked outside. The night was filled with shadows of armed men carrying torches and guns. They surrounded the small house, shouting threats, laughing cruelly. The man stood in the center of them, calm, silent. His hands no longer hid what he carried. The cloth fell away, revealing metal unlike any weapon she had seen. It shimmered faintly, humming with a strange energy. The raiders laughed. One man against all of us, they jeered. You'll be dead before the fire dies. But the man did not move. He stood tall, his eyes glowing brighter now, his voice cut through the night like steel. Leave. This is your only chance. The raiders roared with laughter. They raised their guns, but before they could fire, the man moved. The woman's breath caught in her throat. He was fast, too fast. His body blurred in the dark. The weapon in his hand shone with strange light, and in seconds, the raiders were thrown back. Their guns fell to the ground, their torches smashed into the dirt. The mother covered her daughter's eyes, but she could not look away. The man fought like no human she had ever seen. Bullets bent away from him. Knives broke against his skin. Every move was precise, every strike unstoppable. But he did not kill. He only disarmed, knocked them down, and forced them to crawl away. His voice was firm. If you return, you will not walk away again. The raiders, broken and afraid, dragged themselves into the shadows, their laughter gone, replaced by silence and fear. The mother trembled. She looked at the man as he stood alone in the dark, his weapon glowing faintly, his body untouched. She whispered to herself, no man could do that, no man at all. When he came back inside, the firelight touched his face again. His eyes glowed softly, not with anger, but with something unspoken. He sat back in the corner, placing the straw weapon against the wall. The mother could not stay silent anymore. Her voice was low but filled with fear. What are you? The man looked at her, and for the first time a small shadow of a smile crossed his face. I am someone who does not belong here. And with those words, the woman realized the truth. This was not just a man with secrets. This was a man carrying something far greater than she could imagine. The night air still carried the echoes of the raiders' shouts. The settlement was quiet again, but the quiet was not peace. It was the silence after fear, a silence that pressed down heavy on the woman's heart. She had seen things no human should see. Through the cracks of the wall, she had watched the man fight, and she knew now he was not like others. He moved too fast, too strong. His body seemed untouchable. His weapon glowed with strange power. She could not forget the sight of bullets curving away from him, knives snapping against his skin. Her daughter slept, safe and calm, but the mother could not rest. Her eyes followed the man as he placed his weapon back in the corner and sat near the fire. He looked calm, as if nothing had happened. His chest rose steady with breath, no wound, no blood. The woman whispered, her voice trembling, no man could do that. The man did not answer. His glowing eyes stared into the fire. He looked far away, lost in memories only he could see. The mother's fear grew into something sharper. She wanted to demand answers. She wanted to know what kind of creature he was, but before she could speak, another sound broke the silence. A shout, far off. Then another. The ground seemed to tremble. The woman rushed to the window. Her heart dropped. The raiders had returned, but this time they were not a few men with torches. They came in numbers, dozens, carrying bigger weapons, dragging machines on wheels. Their leader shouted orders, his voice full of rage. The man stood slowly. His hand brushed the weapon, leaning against the wall. His eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. The mother grabbed his arm. You cannot fight them all, she begged. They will kill you. They will burn everything. Please run. Take my daughter. Take me. Just leave before they come. But the man shook his head. His voice was steady. I will not run again. Again. The word struck her, as if it carried a history he would not share. She wanted to ask, but he moved to the door before she could speak. The child stirred in her sleep, whispering softly. The mother kissed her forehead and whispered, Stay safe, little one. Then she turned back to the man. Through the cracks of the wall, she saw the raiders close in. Their leader raised his weapon high, shouting, Burn the house, kill the stranger. But the man stepped forward, his tall figure lit by the fire behind him. His voice cut across the night. You should have listened. This is your last chance. The raiders laughed. The leader raised his arm, and the first shot rang out. The woman gasped. She expected to see blood. She expected to see him fall. But instead, the bullet bent in midair, Curving like it struck an invisible wall, it dropped harmlessly to the ground. The man moved, faster than sight. His weapon lit the dark with a strange blue glow. A wave of energy knocked 3 raiders off their feet. They screamed, their weapons flying from their hands. The others rushed in, firing, shouting, but nothing touched him. He flowed through them like a shadow. Every strike of his hand dropped a man to the dirt. Every swing of his weapon shattered steel. The woman watched in awe and terror. He was a storm of light and strength, a force that could not be stopped. Guns cracked, knives flashed, but he broke them all. One raider swung a heavy chain, but the man caught it midair and pulled, sending the raider crashing into the ground. Another tried to stab him from behind, but the blade bent, snapping against his sea. "Kin!" the raiders screamed, fear rising. They had thought him a man, but what they faced was something else. The leader roared in anger. He pulled a heavy rifle, bigger than any she had seen. Its barrel glowed red as it charged. The man turned just as the shot fired. A beam of burning energy rushed toward him. The mother covered her mouth, but once again, the light bent, split, and vanished into the night. The man raised his weapon, glowing brighter than ever. He struck the ground, and a shockwave threw the leader back, tearing the rifle from his hands. The battlefield grew silent. Raiders crawled in the dirt, weapons broken, courage gone. The leader struggled to rise, but the man's glowing eyes fixed on him. His voice was deep, commanding, "Leave this place, tell others. This world is not yours." The leader's face twisted in fear. He spat blood, then turned and limped into the shadows. His men followed, dragging each other, broken, defeated. The mother fell to her knees inside the house, trembling. She had seen war, she had seen cruelty, but never this. Never one man against an army, and still standing, the man came back inside, his weapon dimmed, his eyes still glowing softly. He sat again by the fire, silent, as if nothing had happened. The mother could not hold back her voice this time. "You are not human," she whispered. "No human could do what you did tonight." The man looked at her, his face calm, his voice quiet. "I was human, once." The fire cracked, and in that moment, the woman knew her life, and her daughter's life, had crossed into something greater. They were living under the roof of someone who was not just a man, but a secret hidden in the ruins of the world. The morning light crept through the cracks of the wooden shutters. The air outside smelled of smoke and dust, but inside the small house the fire still burned, warm and steady. The woman sat near her daughter, brushing the girl's tangled hair with her fingers. Her child slept deeply, too tired to know the fear that had swept over the night. The mother, however, could not rest. Her eyes followed the man as he sat by the fire, silent, unmoving. His glowing eyes no longer shone as bright, but there was something in them, a heaviness that pulled at the edges of his face. She thought about the things she had seen, a man who could not be harmed by bullets, a man who moved faster than her eyes could follow, a man who held a weapon that no raider could understand. He was no ordinary survivor. He was no ordinary human, she whispered carefully, not wanting to wake her child. "You fought like a soldier, but not like any soldier I've ever seen." The man looked at her, his jaw tightened, his silence stretched. Then he finally spoke, his voice low. "I was a soldier once, a long time ago." The words sent a chill down her spine. He had said once, just like he had said last night, as if those days were buried far away. Her voice pressed gently. "Where? Not here. Not on this world." The man's eyes flickered. His hand brushed against the strange weapon leaning on the wall. He seemed to weigh the choice in his mind, whether to reveal or remain silent. Finally, he said, "Not this world, no. I did not come from here. I came from the stars." The woman's breath caught. Her lips parted in disbelief. She had heard stories told in broken whispers, old tales of humans traveling beyond the skies, but those were myths, dreams of the past. He continued, his voice steady. "We were explorers, settlers, soldiers. We left Earth long ago. We spread across the stars, building colonies, building homes, fighting wars we should never have fought." The woman clutched her daughter protectively, even as she listened. His words were too strange, too heavy, yet they rang with a truth that made her heart tremble. The man's gaze turned to the flames, his face hard. There was a war, humanity against others, creatures that saw us as invaders. The battles lasted years, too many died. I was part of it. I fought until nothing was left in me. He paused, as if his chest carried ghosts. When the war ended, we were scattered. Many ships destroyed, many soldiers abandoned. I was left here, on this broken colony, alone, forgotten. The woman's throat felt tight. She had begged him for one night of shelter, yet here she was, sitting beside a man who had fought among the stars, a man carrying the weight of an entire forgotten history. Her voice trembled. "And the glowing thing, The machine, is it from them? He nodded slowly. It is the last piece of my ship, a core of power, a memory of where I came from. It is the reason I am hunted, the reason I cannot stay in one place for long. The mother's hands shook. Her eyes darted to her daughter who still slept peacefully. Then you are in danger, and now we are too. The man's eyes softened, glowing faint but warm. You are safer here than anywhere else. I swore never to fight again, never to raise my weapon. But last night, when I saw raiders threaten you, threaten your child, I broke that oath. His voice grew heavy with regret, yet inside it burned something else. I told myself I would never fight again, but I cannot ignore what I see. This world is broken, but it does not have to stay broken. The woman studied him. Her fear began to shift into something new. She saw the pain in his words, the truth in his eyes. He was not only powerful, he was also lonely, burdened with memories he could not escape. Her daughter, R, stirred awake, rubbing her eyes. She looked at the man with innocent curiosity. Are you a hero? She asked softly. The man froze. His glowing eyes flickered, his lips parted, but no answer came. His face carried scars of battles fought long ago. He did not see himself as a hero. He saw himself as a survivor, nothing more. The girl smiled anyway. She reached for him with her small hand. Mama says you saved us. The man's hand hesitated, then slowly, gently, he took the girl's hand in his own. His large, scarred fingers closed carefully around her tiny palm. For a moment, the silence in the room was warm. The mother watched, her heart tightening. She had come to this door, begging for food, begging for one night. Instead, she had found a man who carried the stars in his past and a storm in his heart. But outside the house, the world was not still. The raiders had fled, but word of the glowing-eyed stranger would spread. Rumors of a man who could not be killed, a man who fought like no other. And far beyond the ruined skies, higher than the broken satellites, ships moved in the cold dark, searching, listening. The enemies he once fought had not forgotten. They were closer than he feared. The man's eyes lifted from the fire, his voice barely above a whisper. The past always returns. The woman felt the weight of his words. She did not know what storm was coming, but she knew this. Her life and her daughter's life were no longer their own. They were tied now to a man who had once fought among the stars. Days turned into weeks, and the small house that once felt empty began to change. The fire burned brighter, not only because of wood, but because of laughter. For the first time in years, the man was not alone. The woman and her daughter stayed. At first, she told herself it was only for safety, only until her child grew stronger. But slowly, she began to see something else. The man was not just a warrior from the stars. He was also a builder. He repaired broken doors for the Jechbors. He fixed machines that had been silent for years. He taught the settlement how to guard their homes, not with fear, but with courage. People began to whisper his name. Some feared him, some admired him. But all of them knew he was different. The daughter followed him everywhere. Her small voice filled the silence that had once weighed heavy on the house. Show me how, she would say. And the man, who once carried only weapons, now showed her how to plant seeds, how to mend cloth, how to make small tools from scraps. At night, she would sit by the fire and ask questions. What are the stars like? Are they brighter than here? Do people live up there? Her eyes would shine as he answered. His voice was calm, steady. Yes, they shine brighter. Yes, people live there, but not all of them are kind. The mother watched this bond grow. Her fear had not left her heart, but it was mixed with something warmer, something she thought she had lost long ago. Hope. One evening, the settlement gathered near the square. A machine that once pumped clean water had been broken for years. The man worked on it all day, his glowing eyes scanning wires and pipes, his strong hands fixing what no one else could. When water finally flowed again, people cheered. Children splashed their hands. Old men laughed. For a moment, the ruined world felt alive again. The woman looked at him, standing tall and silent while the people thanked him. And she realized he was no longer just a stranger. He was becoming part of them, but not everyone trusted. Some whispered, he is not one of us. Others said, if he could fight raiders, what if he turns against us? Fear never leaves easily, and shadows grow fast in broken places. The man knew this. He did not answer their whispers. He only kept working. He gave more than he took. Slowly, the settlement began to see him not as a weapon, but as a she-eld. At night, when the fire burned low, the woman dared to ask him, why do you help us? You could live alone. You could hide, but you stay. Why? He looked at her for a long moment, his voice quiet. Because I remember what it felt like to lose everything. Alone, there is nothing. Together, there is a chance. His words stayed in her heart. They carried weight, not of poetry, but of scars. The daughter, half asleep, whispered, "You're like my father." Her tiny hand clutched his sleeve. The man froze, his face hard for a moment, then soft. He did not answer, but he did not pull away. The woman felt tears she could not explain. She turned her face to the fire. Her child had spoken what she herself could not dare to say, yet danger was never far. One night, as the wind howled outside, a strange sound broke the air. It was not the laugh of raiders, not the crack of gunfire. It was a hum, low and steady, that grew louder. The man stood at once. His eyes glowed sharper. He moved to the door. The mother followed, her chest tight with fear. Above the settlement, the dark sky carried lights, not torches, not stars, but ships. They moved slow and silent, their shadows falling heavy on the ground. The man's face grew hard, his jaw clenched. "They have found me," he whispered. The woman's heart pounded. "Who?" she asked. "The raiders." But his answer made her blood run cold. "Not raiders, not men. They are hunters from beyond the stars." The ships glided closer, their lights cutting through the night. The settlement stirred, people rushing out of homes, voices filled with panic. The man turned to the woman, his voice steady but firm. "Take your daughter. Hide her. Stay low." The mother grabbed his arm. "You cannot face them. You cannot fight the sky." But his glowing eyes met hers, calm and unshaken. "If I do not, they will burn this place. They will kill everyone. They will never stop hunting me." The daughter woke, frightened by the noise. She clung to her mother, her small voice trembling. "What's happening?" The mother knelt, kissing her forehead. "Stay with me. Do not let go." She tried to smile, but her heart broke. Outside, the ships lowered, beams of light searching the ground. The sound of machines filled the air. The sky itself seemed to shake. The man reached for the weapon leaning on the wall. His hand lingered on the glowing core hidden beneath cloth. His voice was calm but carried steel. "The past has returned, but I will not let it take you." The fire burned low, the wind roared, and the night filled with the sound of engines from the stars. The new family had begun to form, but before it could grow, it would be tested. The man who had once promised never to fight again now stood at the edge of battle, not for himself, but for them. The night sky burned with unnatural light. The ships from beyond the stars hovered above the settlement, casting long shadows over broken houses and frightened faces. The sound of engines filled the air, low and steady, like the growl of a predator waiting to strike. The people of the settlement ran into the streets, some shouting in panic, others frozen in fear. They had seen raiders before, but never this. This was something greater, something colder, something that did not come for food or gold. It came with purpose. The man stood in the open, his tall frame unmoving, his glowing eyes locked on the sky. The mother pulled her daughter close, whispering, "Stay quiet, stay still." But her eyes never left him. She saw the weight in his face, the stillness before a storm. The first ship lowered, its metal body black against the firelight. A ramp unfolded, and from it stepped figures in armor. Their shapes were sharp, their movements precise, their weapons hummed with power no human had seen. Their eyes glowed with the same strange light as the man's weapon. One of them spoke, his voice metallic, echoing across the night. "Fallen soldier, your time of hiding is over. Hand over the core, and your death will be swift." The man's face stayed calm, though his jaw tightened. He stepped forward, his voice steady. "I swore never to fight again. I swore to leave war behind." The armored figure raised his weapon, its tip glowing with deadly heat. "Then you swore a lie." The mother's heart pounded. She clutched her daughter, but she could not look away. This was not a raid, this was a hunt, and the man they had trusted was the prey. The man lifted his hand, not in surrender but in defiance. His voice cut sharp through the air. "I will not give you the core. I will not give you this world." The aliens moved forward, their steps heavy, their weapons aimed. The settlement gasped, people hiding behind broken walls and shattered carts. Some whispered prayers, others only stared. The man turned once to the woman and her child. His glowing eyes softened for a heartbeat, his voice lowered. "Stay inside, do not come out, no matter what you hear." But the woman grabbed his arm, her voice fierce despite her fear. "You cannot face them alone. They are not like raiders. They will kill you." His hand rested gently on hers, strong but calm. "If I fall, they will not stop. They will burn this place. They will take the core. They will take everything. I must stand." Her throat tightened. She wanted to beg him, to stop him, but the words would not come. She saw it in his eyes. He had already chosen. The man stepped forward, his weapon in his hand. The cloth fell away, and the glow grew brighter. It pulsed with power, alive with memory of battles long past. The armored leader raised his weapon high. "Then die with your oath." The fight began. A beam of burning light shot across the square. The ground cracked. dust and stone exploding into the air. But the man moved, faster than the eye could follow. His weapon clashed with the beam, splitting it apart, scattering it into sparks. The aliens attack. Head together, their formation tight, every step measured. But he broke their line with strength that seemed impossible. His strikes rang like thunder, his movements flowed like fire. Bullets and beams bent away from him, but each swing of his weapon cut through metal. The people of the settlement watched in awe and terror. For them, this was no man, no human. This was a storm in human shape. But the fight was not easy. These were not raiders with broken guns. These were hunters trained for war. They struck in unison. They adapted fast. One caught his arm with a beam of energy. Another drove a blade toward his chest. The man roared, his voice shaking the ground. He broke free, his glowing eyes burning brighter than ever. He struck with force that sent two hunters crashing into the dirt. The leader stepped forward, stronger than the rest. His armor thicker, his weapon humming with deadly energy. The clash between them lit the night. Sparks flew, the ground shook. Every strike shook the air. The woman held her daughter, whispering comfort, but her eyes stayed on the man. She wanted to believe he could not fall, but each clash of steel made her heart bleed with fear. The hunters circled him, their leader pressing forward. For a moment, it seemed too much, too many. Then a sound broke the air, not from the man, but from the people. The settlers, weak and poor, picked up stones, sticks, broken tools. They shouted, throwing what they had, striking at the hunters from behind. Fear burned into courage. Their voices rose. "This is our home." The hunters faltered, distracted, and in that moment the man struck. His weapon cut through the leader's armor, sparks bursting into the night. The leader staggered, fell to one knee, his glowing weapon dying. The others hesitated, looking to him, and the man's voice thundered, "Leave this place, tell your masters humanity still stis." Ants. The hunters pulled back, dragging their wounded leader. Their ship hummed, lifting slowly into the dark sky. Their shadows vanished into the clouds. Silence fell. The people gasped for breath, their eyes wide. The man stood alone in the square, his weapon dimming, his body scarred but unbroken. The mother rushed forward, her daughter in her arms, her voice cracked. "You could have died!" The man looked at her, his glowing eyes soft now. "I told you I cannot run, not anymore." Above them, the stars shone cold, and though the hunters had left, the battle was not over. The man knew they would return, stronger, fiercer. But for tonight, he had kept his promise. The night was quiet again, but it was not the same quiet as before. The ground still carried the scars of the battle, burned earth and broken stone. The air smelled of smoke and dust. Yet inside the settlement there was something new, not only fear but also courage. The people gathered in the square, whispering to each other. Their eyes turned again and again to the tall man standing near the firelight. His weapon rested at his side, dim and silent, his glowing eyes no longer sharp with battle, but heavy with thought. The woman held her daughter close. Her heart still raced from the fight, but her eyes never left him. He had saved them again, not only her and her child, but the whole settlement. Her daughter tugged gently at her sleeve, whispering, "Mama, he saved everyone. He's our hero." The woman's lips trembled. She wanted to believe those words, but she also feared them, for she knew the hunters would not stop. The ships above the stars would return. They had tasted defeat, and they would not accept it. The man's voice broke the silence, calm but heavy. "They will come again." His words carried no doubt. They will not forgive what happened here tonight. Fear rippled through the crowd. Some whispered, "Then we should send him away." Others muttered, "If he leaves, maybe they will not return." The mother stepped forward, her voice sharp though. Her body shook. "If he leaves, we are defenseless. If he stays, we are afraid. But which is worse, to die alone or to stand together?" The people grew quiet. Their eyes turned to the man, waiting. He stood tall, but his face showed no pride, only weariness. He looked at the woman, then at her daughter. His voice softened. "I was never meant to stay. I am a soldier of a war that ended long ago. My place is not here. I carry danger with me, wherever I go." The daughter stepped forward, her small hand reaching for his. Her eyes shone with tears. "But you belong here. You belong with us." The man froze, her tiny hand pressed into his scarred palm. His glowing eyes flickered, and for the first time in many years, his heart felt the weight of something he had forgotten. Not duty, not war, but family. He knelt to meet her eyes, his voice rough, almost breaking. "I have no family." The girl shook her head fiercely. "You do now." The woman's throat tightened. Tears burned her eyes. She had begged him for only one night, begged him to feed her daughter, and instead he had given them safety, given them hope, given them something more. The people around them began to nod. One by one, voices rose. Stay with us." The fear in their voices turned into strength. "If they come again, we will fight together." The man rose slowly. His eyes scanned the broken homes, the scarred faces, the trembling hands holding stones and sticks. They were weak compared to the hunters, but there was fire in them, fire that no enemy could erase. His voice rang steady. "Then I will stay, not as a soldier, not as a weapon, but as one of you." A cheer rose, soft at first, then stronger. The settlement that once carried only silence now carried hope. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding. The man helped mend walls, repair roofs, and strengthen defenses. He taught the people how to work together, not as frightened survivors, but as a family. The woman watched him closely. She saw how he spoke gently to her daughter, how he lifted heavy beams for the old, how he stood guard at night while others slept. His presence filled the air with a sense of safety she had not felt in years. One evening, as the stars shone bright above, the girl sat beside him near the fire, her voice soft but full of certainty. "I want to call you Dad, can I?" The man's breath caught. His glowing eyes dimmed to a warm light. His chest ached with memories of a time before war, a time before loss. He had thought that part of him was dead, but now, sitting by the fire with a child's hand in his, he realized it still lived. He nodded slowly, his voice deep but gentle. "Yes, you can." The girl smiled wide, curling into his side. The woman watched, her heart full. For the first time in so long, she believed they were no longer just surviving. They were living, far above in the endless dark. The hunters still searched. The war was not truly over and danger would return. But when it came, it would not face one broken soldier hiding in silence. It would face a family, a settlement, a people who had chosen to stand together. And at the heart of it would stand the man who once believed he had nothing left. Now he had a home. Now he had a daughter who called him father. Now he had something to fight for. The fire burned, the stars glowed, and for the first time since the war, the man felt peace.